We've all been there. We've seen something we like at the store and we ask ourselves, can I afford it? It's so easy to get wrapped up in the excitement of wanting a new thing, but sometimes impulses can really affect your finances. The first thing I'm quickly going to touch on is budgeting. The easiest way to know if you can afford something is if your budget says you can. There are so many different methods of budgeting, and I will definitely be making a video in the future on how to budget and what kind of methods would work best for you depending on your circumstance. But for today, I'm just going to say having a budget is the easiest way to know if you can afford something. The thing is, as people, we make our budgets. So we actually choose if we can afford something or not, and we actually choose if we budget towards a certain category. What that means is sometimes we may be a little bit more lenient with ourselves if we want something and say, oh yeah, for sure I can afford this. But when you're choosing if you can afford something or not, and you have a budget, and let's say at the end of the month you have $300 left over, the item you want to buy is $200, and you tell yourself, I can afford it because I have $300 left over, you have to really ask yourself honestly, is this $300 that is left over, or is it money that would be better put towards something else that I want in the future, like retirement or savings towards a bigger goal? I don't think every single penny that you make should be put towards savings, but I think there is a time and place where more money should go towards savings than it should towards spending, and you need to know that dependent on your situation. So when you're making a budget, be honest with yourself about your goals to know if the leftover money is something that you can use towards something you want, or it should be something that you put towards savings. That doesn't mean you can't buy the item you want. That just might mean you need to save up for a few months before spending that money on the item that you want to buy. You really have to ask yourself, can I buy this item I want without sacrificing my savings, without sacrificing the things I want in the future? It's important to be honest with yourself. And it can be very easy to justify wants, but it's important first to know what your needs are and then have your wants. So if your needs are covered, your savings are covered, and the rest that you put towards what you want, that is where you know if you can afford something or not. When asking yourself if you can afford something, it's important to also use the cost per use calculation, because sometimes we buy something that is $100 and we use it once and then it gets shoved in the back of a closet and we never see it again. And that means that that costs $100 to use once. But if you're gonna buy something that costs $200 and you're going to use it 200 times or more, that means each time you use it, it will only cost you $1. That is what the cost per use calculation is. You take how much it costs and you divide it by how many times you think you're going to use it, and that's how much it costs per use. This is really important because sometimes more expensive things that we want, more expensive things that we may think we can't afford, we actually can afford because we're buying one thing that we'll use more often instead of buying 2 or 3 things. Just like a pair of jeans, let's say. You want to buy a $200 pair of jeans. It's funny that pair of jeans is a pair because a pair is like 2, but I guess it's 2 holes. Anyways. If you're as curious as I am, I needed to know why it was called a pair of pants. So back in the day, it was actually 2 separate items, one for each leg. You'd put them on one at a time, and then they would tie it around your waist. And that's why it's called a pair of pants. So you want to buy a pair of jeans for $200, or you can buy a pair of jeans for $30. The $200 pair of jeans, you know will last you a long time. You can use it for a few years, but the cheap $30 ones, you know you'll probably have to buy again in a year. If you buy a $200 pair of jeans and it lasts you 3 years or more, but for the sake of this calculation, let's say you don't like the style anymore, the jeans are fine, but you want to change them in 3 years, and you wear them 100 times a year, so that's about every 3 days you put on the pair of jeans, you wear them, maybe more, maybe less, but let's say for the sake of this calculation, that means that each time you wear that pair of jeans, it costs you 67 cents approximately. And then for the cheaper option of jeans that cost $30, let's say that you wear them 10 times, but then you realize after the 10th time, they're a bit uncomfortable, they're not exactly what you want, so you go and buy another $30 pair of jeans. That means that it costs you $3 to wear that pair of jeans each time you wore them if they were $30 and you only wore them 10 times. That is the cost per use calculation, and that's how it works. Also, I want to say that was just an example. I don't think $30 pairs of jeans should only be worn 10 times, or that you'll get bored of them when you wear them 10 times. It's just a really simple calculation and example to show you what cost per use means. When it comes to if you think you can afford something, it's really important to think about the opportunity cost. When you are buying something, you are saying no to something else. If you buy a $100 perfume or a $100 video game, that means that $100 can't go towards your vacation, or it can't go towards buying a new car, or towards your retirement. That is something that you have to consider whenever you purchase something. That means when you buy that $100 perfume or that $100 video game, you're losing out on the potential gains that you have on the other things that you could purchase. If you put that $100 into an investment, if you put that $100 into an experience, if you put that $100 into something else you want to buy. That doesn't mean you shouldn't buy the things that you want. It just means to be aware if the money could go towards something else that's better. Just like how I mentioned in the budgeting section of this video, that it's really important to know that you're putting money towards things that matter. But I don't think that you should never buy things just because there's a better thing to put it in. It's just something to be aware of. If you want to buy that $100 video game, if you want to buy that $100 perfume, buy it. But make sure you plan for it and make sure you can afford it with all the things that I'm mentioning, like a perfume or a video game. You can put opportunity cost into that too, and you can put cost per use. If you're gonna use that $100 video game, also, I don't know how much video games cost, but just for the sake of, do they cost $100? I don't know. And you use it 100 times, it's $1 per use. Perfume, you could probably use that 300 times, so that is very cheap per use. A lot of times, I don't ask myself anymore, can I afford this item? Just because I've been budgeting for so long, I can just open my budgeting app and see if I can actually afford something. I don't necessarily need to think and ponder if I can afford something. But the question I really ask myself is, do I want it or do I really need it? Just because you can afford something does not mean you should buy it. Just because you can afford a new car or the new car payments does not mean you should buy a new car if you're happy with the car you have. Just because you can afford to go on a vacation with your friends, but let's say you really don't want to spend the money on that, doesn't mean you have to. When you can afford something, it does not mean that you have to purchase it. It just means that you know that you can buy that without financially hurting yourself or financially hurting your future. When you know you can afford something, but you're not sure if you want it, but you kind of want it, something really important to think about is delayed gratification. Sometimes we want something just because it's exciting and it's new and we can bring it home and we can look at it and admire it and smile at it. But a lot of times we don't actually want the item, we just want the excitement of getting something new, which is why it's important to think about delaying the gratification and not purchasing something right away. I've mentioned this in several videos, but I think it's very important to give yourself time before purchasing something, even if you can afford it, just so you know if you really want the item, or maybe you have something at home that can do the same thing. Something you can do to delay purchasing something new is taking all the items that you already have that are new and putting them in a box. I've recommended this several times, and I think it's an amazing technique that I use myself. I put all my new things that I'm not using currently into a box, and then whenever I feel like buying something or using a new makeup product or a new perfume, I open that box and I get really excited about all the new things that I have in there. They're not necessarily new because I've purchased them a long time ago, but they're new because I haven't used them. The box doesn't have to be new things. It can be things that you haven't been using for a while that you can put in a box, and then you will get so excited when you open it and see all the things that you already have at home. A lot of times people think they can afford something because they can afford the payment. If you can afford a payment plan for something, does not mean that you can afford the item. If you cannot take cash out of your pocket, not necessarily your pocket, okay, we don't carry all of our money on us, but if you can't take out all of the cash that you need to buy an item and go and purchase it, that means you cannot afford the item. And there is nothing wrong with just waiting and actually being able to buy something with cash. And by cash, I don't actually mean like taking out cash. It's like a metaphorical thing. Using your credit card and then paying it off right away is like using cash. But if you can only afford the payment plan and you can't afford to buy it outright, then you cannot afford the item. There are certain circumstances where you will not be able to actually buy something outright. A house is a good example. And for a lot of people, car, but I'd recommend if you are getting a car and not paying cash, to have the smallest term for the loan that you can and try to pay it off as quickly as possible. I think that getting into debt is not somewhere you want to be in. And if you're in debt, you can get out of it. I have a lot of videos talking about money management, and I will also be talking about how you can get out of debt. I plan on making that video very soon. But it's very important to not think that you can afford something because you can afford the payment monthly. If you are buying something that's $50 and you do not have the money for it and it's not a necessity, you have to realize that I'm not talking about like groceries or things that you need and you're in a hard position and you use credit card. I'm talking about things you don't need. If your credit card is being swiped and not paid off at the end of the month or whenever your bill comes up, that means you can't afford something. Also, if you're already in credit card debt, It does not mean you have to keep adding to it. You can pay it off and you can live your life without having credit card debt and worrying about paying or missing payments every single month or being overwhelmed about how much a payment is. This may be controversial to some people, but if you're asking yourself, can I afford it? And the only way that you can afford an item is by using a credit card, you can't afford it. As simple as that, you cannot afford it. I'm not against credit cards. I think you should use them and pay them off right away. But if you can't pay off that bill at the end of the month, then you cannot afford the item and you should not buy it. Do not finance things that are wants. Do not put your wants on a credit card that you have to pay so much more money on in the future. Why would you want to buy something for $100 and then by the time you're done paying that, you could be paying $300 on that item? So that $100 item can turn into $300 item depending on how long it takes you to pay off that credit card. It's really important to be honest and true to yourself and ask yourself if you really need something. Because guess what? You can buy things. I don't think there's anything wrong with buying things that you want and actually telling yourself, yes, I can afford this item if you have it in your budget that you can afford it, if you're not getting into credit card debt, and if you've allocated money towards it and saved for it. It's important in life to enjoy the money that you create and make and put it towards savings, sometimes not buy the things you want, and also buy the things you want. If you watch this video and realize you can't buy something that you really want and you're deciding not to buy it, I am so proud of you, but also you can save towards the items you want. Just because you can't afford something now doesn't mean you can't afford it in the future. Write on a wish list, work towards saving for that item. In no time, you'll be able to save towards what you want and buy it with cash. And also, if you've decided after watching this video that you can afford something, that's awesome too, because I think life is a balance and a mix of both. I think it's important to save towards big things and treat ourselves with small things that we can afford throughout the journey of our lives and enjoy our life and the money that we make. Thank you so much for watching, and I'd love to know in the comments what you resist buying and things that really tempt you to buy, and things that you can afford but you don't buy because you don't think you need it. But whenever you see them, you get excited. For me, I love kitchen stuff. I love cute plates and things, but how many plates can a person have? I don't need that many plates, so I don't buy that many plates. I hope you'll stick around for more financial content. I post every week, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!